Some part of Saru's heart must have been thinking, man, I wish he actually just killed her. That would make things so much simpler. It would make this show so much better. Except I don't think Saru was thinking it would make the show that much better. Because Saru doesn't know he's in a show. What's up, everyone? I'm back. Today we're checking out Discovery Season 3, Episode 2. I just checked it out a minute ago. Schedule didn't quite line up for me to get it on the day it came out, but what can you do? As you can see on the main viewer, I've taken the preview clip from this episode and flipped it horizontally. Hopefully CBS won't notice, but if they do, whatever, I'll take the video down and put something funny up there instead. So, with that out of the way, let's get right into it. This episode was called Far From Home. It's not that Hope Is You Part 2. I'm assuming that comes later, or never. Who knows? But this one's called Far From Home. Not a very imaginative title. The U.S.S. Discovery crash lands on this unknown planet, and it doesn't look that good. I mean, I must say, we've had a lot of crashes in Star Trek, and this is pretty low down for me, all things considered. I have to wonder, are we running out of money? Like, the effects are starting to look a little bit cheap to me. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Saru appears to be in command, which is good. Saru should be the captain. He's a great character, played by a great actor. And he's really bringing his A-game. I really felt connected with Saru in this episode. The actor does a good job of acting through his prosthetics. Good job. So, a few minutes into this episode, we have Saru and the rest of the bridge crew assessing the damage to the Discovery, and one character says, "We can't call Michael." Which just I immediately flash back to The Simpsons, when Homer was pitching some movie, and Homer would say it like this, though. And whenever Michael's not on screen, all the characters have to ask, "Where's Michael?" And to actually feel that sucked a lot. I didn't want to feel that, but we did, and we got characters asking, "Where's Michael? Where's Michael?" I could have done the whole rest of the season without Michael and have been happy, but here we are. They crash land. They're assessing the damage. B-plot is that Stamets need to repair some kind of conduit inside of Jeffrey's tube to get something working. A-plot is Tilly and Saru going to an encampment to barter for supplies. Tilly figures out that, based on scans, it seems like they have warp ships, but no dilithium in them. So she has the idea to trade dilithium, which is good. And that gets them into the good books with the people in the settlement on this planet. This planet is undeniably beautiful, if a little bit strange in its topography. They go to this bar. It's styled, it's just like a Wild West bar. It's totally misplaced. I don't know why we had to go Wild West with it, but we got a Wild West bar in the middle of this planet, and they're in there bartering for supplies, Saru and Tilly. I don't know why he brought Tilly. I would have taken Nan. You know, the one with the kind of mouthpiece thing? She seemed pretty on top of things last season. I would have brought her. They encounter these people that are living in some kind of colony. I guess they're miners. I think I've seen this alien before, but I'm not sure. But they find out that the colony is being terrorized by someone named Zara. And I was kind of interested in who the Zara guy was. I was like, oh man, what kind of cool alien is this guy going to be? Wow. And he walks in Wild West fashion. You see the boots first, door swinging and whatnot. Wild West music, totally misplaced. Right out of nowhere in this episode. And he's just kind of a human. And I think his two henchmen are human too. Kind of boring. But he ended up like disappearing from the episode anyway, so maybe he's just a one-off character and they didn't need anything special. Whatever. Georgiou walks in. Georgiou followed them to this encampment. I wish somebody got a lid on friggin' Georgiou. How can Georgiou escape the Discovery and have no one notice? You guys, get your friggin' security checked out, boys. You can't just have Georgiou running around willy-nilly. Anyway, Georgiou lands. Georgiou, Zira, Zira's henchmen, Tilly and Saru, they fight. Zero comes out on bottom. Zira is forced to walk the desert, basically. He probably won't survive, but maybe he will. And what happens is they give Saru a personal transporter, and I don't know how this works. It's a little object you hold, and it just cuts to Saru back on the Discovery after he uses this transporter, and I don't know how it works. Like, do you just think about it? I'd like to see that explained a little bit more, but they wind up back in the Discovery with what I suppose is the parts that they needed from the colony, probably traded for what the colony members needed, hopefully. And meanwhile, in the B plot, Stamets goes up into a Jeffries tube, even though his brain's all discombobulated, from going through the wormhole and being all sick and whatnot, but just came out of a coma, only to go right to work fixing the ship. Great combination, guys. He manages to fix the ship just in time before parasitic ice takes over the Discovery, which sounds bad, and it sounds even worse when you realize they figure out it gets worse in the shade. So there's a ticking clock element in this episode, eh? Before nightfall, they have to get the Discovery out of there. And right at the end of the episode, they're trying to divert all the power they can to the maneuvering thrusters to push the Discovery out of the ice, and it looks like they're not going to make it. But then, wow, wouldn't you know it, we're saved by an angel. It's Michael. Michael Burnham is flying in what I assumed was the Nautilus from last episode, but I'm not sure. Tractor beam on the Discovery, pulling it out of the ice. And if I'm not mistaken, a ship being saved by another ship's tractor beam has happened, I think, 3 times in the series so far. Am I wrong? I believe the Shenzhou was saved that way, and the Discovery, and something else. Maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time the show copied off itself again, and other things, and sci-fi in general, because this episode was just basically Star Wars. We got 2 episodes of Star Wars. I mean, we can tell what the showrunners watched. You can tell they probably watched The Mandalorian, if you've ever seen that. You can tell they've watched Star Wars. You can tell they've watched, like, The Expanse. It's kind of sad. Especially when Star Trek came out originally. There was nothing else in the world like it. Take it from me. I'm from Star Trek. Why did all these people volunteer to go to the future? They had some one-off line about it when Georgiou was talking to Nan, and Nan said, it just felt like, a man for a man, I should do it, right? She was willing to sacrifice herself, so I'll do it too. Which is bizarre, because 80-some people did that. 80-some people volunteered to go to the future. Half of those people have probably never even met Michael. On a whim that this would stop Control. And on top of that, it was kind of pointless because Control was basically already destroyed. I mean, when I saw the finale of Season 2, I was like, why are they going? Why? They just killed Leland. Why are they going to the future? They do it anyway. I guess they just didn't want to make Michael upset. They didn't want to send Michael alone. I would have turned that ship around. But, hey, we managed to get the spore drive into the future where it belonged. It appears to me like an ongoing theme of this season is going to be who is really in control of this mission. Is it Saru? Is it Georgiou? And that was front and center this episode. There's a lot of combat between Saru and Georgiou. But I'm also wondering if there's going to be a 3-way struggle for control between Georgiou, Saru, and Michael. Who knows? Zara decides to... Once Zara captures Saru and Tilly, Zara decides to send Tilly back to the Discovery to get to the supplies that Zara needs. Why does Zara send Tilly? He even points out that she looks capable and looks like she could make it. My money would be on Saru. He looks fast. He looks fast as hell, boy. It would have been a great service if Zara had actually killed Georgiou. Zara kind of shoots Georgiou, but in his stupidity, he's just kind of torturing her and making it slow. And that backfires, of course, and Zara gets destroyed, basically. Why couldn't he just kill her? Some part of Saru's heart must have been thinking, man, I wish he actually just killed her. That would make things so much simpler. It would make this show so much better. Except I don't think Saru was thinking it would make the show that much better. Because Saru doesn't know he's in a show. One more strange thing was that a lot of this episode's B-plot took place inside a Jeffries tube, which is cool. But I also happen to know, from previous episodes, that the Discovery is filled with vast, empty, voluminous space. So from whence comes the Jeffries tube? Why would you have these Jeffries tubes if you've got a ton of empty space inside the ship? Jeffries tubes were things that had to exist in densely packed ships with decks upon decks upon decks and every space accounted for. So the only way you could get into some areas is through tiny crawl spaces called Jeffries tubes. What's the point of a Jeffries tube if we've got huge caverns of space inside the Discovery? Check out past episodes. It's all empty in there, guys. What's the point of the Jeffries tube? To cap things off, the absence of Michael in this episode was refreshing. However, with a plot more interesting than last episode, it provides a few more thrills while still feeling like Star Wars. Lots of bizarre decisions tested my suspension of disbelief again. Saru was a standout. What can I say? This just isn't really I almost called it Star Wars. I had to stop myself. I was going to say this isn't really Star Wars, but it is, isn't it? I was going to say this isn't really Star Trek. Where is the underlying philosophical question? There's nothing for my brain to work on after I've left the episode. This episode will not play on its own in any regard. It is a tiny fraction of a huge movie. And for me, that's just not very interesting. I wanted to rate this initially a 5, but I decided because last episode I was a little bit more lenient than I otherwise would have been, I've decided to go harder on this one and I gave it a 4.5. So, could be better. It's not the worst thing ever. This series has definitely seen worse episodes, but 4.5 ain't bad, I guess. It almost works. In my mind, a 5 out of 10 is just, I feel 0. That means I came out of it feeling exactly the same as I did before I went into it. So 4.5 means I felt only slightly worse than I did before I went in. And believe you me, I've seen episodes of this show and episodes of Star Trek Picard where I felt so much worse after having watching it that I would have given them a 2. There's some 2s in STD and in Picard. There might have even been a 1, but I'll spare you. So, with that out of the way, I gotta get back to my duties here, and I'll see you guys next week maybe. So, this is Mark, signing out.